Thank you for joining me today and for your patience. I'm going to be talking about the App Runtime Platform Working Group update. My name's Amelia Downs. I'm a staff engineer at Broadcom. I've been an engineering contributor to Cloud Foundry since 2016. I'm a member of the Technical Oversight Committee along with a few other people here. But most important to today, I am the tech lead of the Application Runtime Platform Working Group, which I will call ARP to save many minutes. Last time I gave an update was at the last CF Day Europe, so everything that I'm going to mention today has happened since then with a good amount of recency bias. My goal for today is to give you an introduction to the ARP working group, who we are, what components we work on, and talk to you about what we've done in the past year. I don't have enough time to go deep on any one subject, but maybe I'll pique your interest and you'll find me later so we can talk about it. And I'm going to do all that in just 10 minutes, so let's go. As Behan mentioned earlier, the Cloud Foundry Foundation has 9 working groups, and ARP is one of them. Each working group is broken up into areas. ARP has 8. I assume that this audience is full of Cloud Foundry super users and operators and contributors, so you've probably heard of a few of these. In brief, we're responsible for things like, the operational components of the CF app runtime, application build, execution, ingress, app-to-app routing, volume services, log and metric aggregation, just a few little things. And all working groups have public meetings. So we meet the first Thursday of every month, and anyone is welcome to join and add something to the agenda. I invite you all to join also our Slack channel for general updates or to ask me questions about anything I mention here today. Okay, that's the overview of ARP, but now I want to tell you about some of the amazing work that this group has been doing that maybe you haven't heard about. Work that might not always get the biggest spotlight, but that's so important for keeping the Cloud Foundry community healthy. And because this is my talk, I'm going to talk about the subject I like the most, which is bump and go. Oh, yeah. You won't get away from this. Every year I'm going to come back and talk about it more. So in my working group, a lot of the code is written in Go, and one of the things we have to deal with is that Go updates frequently. So there's a new minor release every 6 months, and in those minor versions, they can contain breaking changes for Cloud Foundry users, especially when it comes to Go router, the routing, and the networking stacks. Each minor version is only supported for 1 year, and there are no exceptions to that. There are no long-term support versions for Go. So all of these factors mean that in order to keep our users on supported versions, we have to constantly be bump and go. And if you have to do something constantly, you should automate everything, right? That way it goes smoothly without mistakes. And I've talked last year about some of our Go bumping automation. And just to jog your memory, here's some of that automation we already had back in 2023. We use pipelines, yay, concourse, to auto-bump new Go patch versions, fully automated, no humans needed. We have a somewhat automated process for bumping new minor releases, only partially automated because of what I mentioned before about those breaking changes. We always want a human to read those release notes before we send it out into the world. And we document the Go version in every release note so that it's very clear what version you are running. And you might be thinking, that sounds great. Sounds like you've automated it. What else could possibly be left? Well, there's 2 problems that we ran into in the past year that I want to talk through. One problem is that we have so many releases, we sometimes forget about one. One that's in the dusty drawer over on the side, and you're like, oh man, I forgot to bump that one this time. So recently we switched to having one file that defines the Go minor version for all of our releases. So pipelines check this file and will automatically bump the Go minor version if needed. By default, each release uses the default Go version listed at the top, or you can override it if there's an issue for while you're trying to update or something. Looks like Diego might have needed some human intervention when upgrading to 123 this year. So now we know we're done when there's no overrides in this file, everything is using the default, and we no longer forget any of our releases. But sadly, that wasn't the only problem we ran into the past year. Okay, turns out that the Go version in the unit test container was not tied to the Go version in the release. So if you forget to bump the Go version in the container, something like this could happen to you. So let's say you bump routing release to Go 122. This happened in January, or February. And the units pass. But unbeknownst to you, they ran in Go 121. Acceptance test passed with Go 122. Great, our pipeline's green. So we cut a release. And then someone from SAP reports a bug. And we realize, oh my gosh, we missed it because of that unit test container running the wrong version of Go. Because when we did update our container, those unit tests failed and the bug was caught. We did have instructions to bump the version in the unit test container, but it was overlooked or done in the wrong order, and that's what happens when humans are involved. So of course, what do we have to do? We need to automate everything. So now in our solution, we detect the Go version in the release. In our pipeline, we dynamically pick the correct container image when running our unit tests. If, for whatever reason, the tests run with a different minor version of Go, then the job fails. So now there's no more discrepancies between the Go version for our unit tests and for our acceptance tests. I told you, this is pretty exciting stuff, my passion project, isn't it? Okay, I know I just painted a beautiful picture, and it is mostly true, but there are some caveats. It doesn't quite cover 100% of the releases in my working group. Not even all of them use Go. And Windows is always just a little bit special and requires a little bit of human intervention. If you want to learn more about this or join our Go bumping automation campaign, you should join our Slack channel, of course. And I linked a bunch of the resources for how we've set up all of this automation if you want to do something similar yourself. Okay, that's enough of my passion project, but I want to talk a little bit more about some other behind-the-scenes work that's happened in the past year. We added platform-enabled TLS for TCP traffic. Before this feature, TCP router would send traffic directly to the app, as I'm showing here, and it was up to the app dev to handle any encryption. Now it sends platform-encrypted traffic to the Envoy sidecar, just like GoRouter does. And if you use CF deployment, this will update behind the scenes without you doing anything. There's also been some great GoRouter logging performance updates. We swapped out the logging libraries behind the scenes. No more computing debug logs when debug isn't even turned on. And like other working groups, we did work to make our components run on a FIPS-compliant stem cell. This is the kind of work I love, this like hidden, less glamorous work. I love just making sure everything just works for users behind the scenes. And I know I've done a good job when like no one knows what I do at all and no one notices anything. But I also like bragging about my working group here with you all. I'm told that people also like features, and we do build those as well. So I'll talk about a few of them. There's a new CPU entitlement metric. The old CPU metric was confusing because it changed based on how many cores were on your VM, which isn't something that an app dev would know about at all. Now there's a CPU entitlement metric that will tell you if your app is within its entitlement, so you can know if it's bursting. You can tell that this app is a pretty greedy app because it's over 100%, it's bursting. So the app dev should really get on that and get it some more CPU. Also, there's a new OpenTelemetry, or OTel, collector on every VM. Before this feature, when you wanted to send logs or metrics off platform, it would look something like this. First, you would send the logs to Doppler, and then the traffic controller, then to a nozzle. Maybe you'd do some transformations there. And then you would send it to your log aggregator, wherever that is. But now it looks like this. If you notice anything, you should see there are fewer boxes. The OTel collector is on every VM, so the operator can configure this collector to do transformations on the VM itself. So if you want to strip those secret things that are in the logs that the app devs really shouldn't be logging but are logging, you can strip them off on the VM itself and they never have to leave the platform. And then those logs can be sent directly anywhere that's compatible with OTel. We added availability zone aware routing. When this feature is turned off, the Go router will send traffic to apps without considering availability zones. And if you turn it on, the Go routers will prefer apps in their same AZ. Of course, they'll still fail over to the other AZs. Those are just some of the things that have come out in the past year. And I'm going to do a quick lightning round of the work in progress to get you excited about what's coming up in the future. The one I am most excited about is per route features. But I promised Max I wouldn't talk about it. Well, he was supposed to talk about it. He's in Mallorca now. But Tamara is here to talk about it later today. Also mentioned earlier was file-based service binding info. So soon you will not be limited to that 130 kilobytes environment variable for your service bindings. Now you can get as wordy as you want. And we're updating Garden to cgroups v2 for the new noble numbat stem cell. Thank you all for listening, for participating, and for helping me debug my presentation setup. And thank you most of all to the working group approvers who made everything I talked about possible today. If you have questions about any of the items, please find me later or on Slack, and we can talk more.